Dear students, my name is Alnerine Greef, and I'm happy to act as coordinating lecturer for Assignment 4 along with Assignment 3, which is your other option for this submission date. Now, I said this in the video for Assignment 3 as well, but these two assignments deal with one of my personal favorite fields of organizational communication, the field of public relations. This assignment will look at one of the aspects that you should find specifically exciting, mostly because of its practical nature. It deals with PR, media, and campaigns, specifically within an integrated perspective. As a student of organizational communication within this department, you should have no problem situating your discussions within the larger context of integrated communication, because it is a concept that you should be well acquainted with by now. Furthermore, the concept of integrated communication or communication within an integrated perspective is something almost intuitive. We know that our stakeholders do not distinguish in their minds the messages or perceptions of the organization based on whether it came from the marketing communication of the organization or the managerial camp or the strategic levels or whatever the case may be. They actually integrate all messages as being, quote, from the organization, irrespective of where in the organization or even actually outside of it actually came from, it originated from. For this reason, integration is logical in many ways. Simply put, it refers to the consolidated outcome of every message about the organization and its products received by a stakeholder. So it's within this thinking that you should plan your assignment and write about the media and campaigns that you will employ. Okay, with that out of the way, let's look at the nitty-gritty of the assignment, and let's get started by looking at the instructions for this assignment so that we can get an idea of what is expected. As you will see, mainly from Tutorial Letter 101, there are 5 specific things that we need to make sure we cover in this assignment so far as content is concerned. These are 5 touch points, if you will, that need to be present in a coherent way. Now, if you look at Tutorial Letter 101, you will see that we present you with a scenario wherein you are the public relations practitioner at a large mobile phone operator in South Africa. Your CEO, unfortunately, in a radio interview, made sexist comments about women, and this incident obviously impacted on the corporate image of your organization. Now, as is often the case, you, as the PR practitioner, is thrown with the hot potato, and you are tasked with planning and implementing a PR campaign that has the aim of restoring a favorable image of your organization. Now, because this obviously has to do with corporate image, the first instruction is that you need to explain the concept corporate image and why a public relations campaign is most appropriate to create a favorable corporate image for the organization. Don't just offer your opinion here. Make sure that you substantiate your discussions from literature. Now, if I were you, I would go and see what public relations campaigns are, in essence, and then align the general purpose of all public relations campaigns, what they actually do, to my definition and explanation of corporate image. This way, my discussion will showcase how a PR campaign is best positioned to speak to corporate image. Of course, there are various types of PR campaigns. So secondly, you have to clearly indicate the public relations campaign planning model you are going to use and motivate why you think the model is appropriate for this campaign specifically. Now, delving into this further, you will then have to indicate how you will use each step of the public relations campaign to communicate a favorable image of the organization to the media and to all other stakeholders as well. When you do this, you need to clearly indicate, firstly, which traditional and online public relations tools and techniques you will use, and secondly, which traditional and online media you will use in your campaign. What is very clear here is that although this assignment asks you to unpack various theoretical aspects, you will not be able to answer these assignment criteria if you are not able to really apply apply the theory you obtain in literature to the specific scenario that we give you. Merely rewriting what you find in literature is insufficient at honors level in any event, as we expect students to read widely and then integrate these various sources along with a discussion wherein their own interpretation of the subject matter becomes evident. This actually shows that you, as a student, have a deep level of understanding as well as insight into the topic, as is expected from you at an honors level. It is only when you start to interpret the literature that you are able to answer the question posed in the assignment directly, rather than just presenting pieces of information that's related to it. Just so, this assignment asks you to do something very specific, a campaign focused around corporate image. Do not include information that's not directly relevant to this. And also, do not just piece together facts. Use the facts from literature to build a campaign. Motivate your choices and show how all of this will practically manifest what you would have done if you were actually in this scenario. So it's really about applying the theory to the real-world simulation that we give you. Essentially, you are going to take all of the theory and use it in process to reach a desired outcome. You are going to show how the theory you make use of can be used to reach the goals that you want to reach as per the scenario. Okay, let's have a look at these 5 instructions we just talked about, or these aspects of your assignment in a little more depth now. Firstly, you will have to explain the concept corporate image and why a public relations campaign is most appropriate to create a favorable corporate image for the organization. We already spoke about this a little bit. Obviously, in order to do this, you will have to define and explain. And explain means you have to expound on a definition of corporate image, alongside PR campaigns and what they generally do. Corporate image is the mental impression or received image of an organization based on knowledge and experience. Different people may hold different corporate images according to their knowledge and experience and generally what they've been exposed to, the messages from the organization, all of that. Now, you need to show how a PR campaign can work towards changing a negative image to the positive within the scenario about your CEO's unfortunate remarks. Why is a PR campaign, as opposed to any other communicative tool, able to do that? Then you have to move on to discuss the actual PR campaign in detail. In the first instance, you will have to clearly indicate the public relations campaign planning model that you are going to use and motivate why you think this model is appropriate for the campaign. Now, motivation is the name of the game here, folks. There really is no right campaign or wrong campaign model to make use of. Anyone could be appropriate, but you have to tell us why you chose the one that you did and why you think it's specifically suited to changing a corporate image from potentially negative to favorable or positive. Secondly, you have to indicate how you will use each step of the public relations campaign to communicate a favorable image of the organization to the media. Your discussion should be balanced in terms of theory and application once again, and only applied to the desired image of the organization. Obviously, there are various models, as we said, which can be used, and it really doesn't matter which one you include, but make sure that the basic steps of most PR models is sort of accounted for in the model that you choose. Now, the basic steps are defining the problem, planning and programming, taking action, and communicating and evaluating the campaign. As long as the campaign model that you choose incorporates those or a form of those, you should be okay. And once again, you are going to motivate to us why you chose the one that you chose, so that should be fine. This motivation, by the way, should be seated within the scenario. It should be chosen because it's applicable to the scenario and not necessarily because it's seminal in literature. That can feature into your motivation as well, but we want to really know that you chose this model because it is appropriate for the scenario given, for the context, for this situation specifically. Now, your discussions on the campaign will enable you to move on to discuss specifically the various tools, techniques, and media that you will use. Any combination, again, is possible, but remember to back up your discussions with references and motivate your choices. I also urge you to be creative here. You should showcase your understanding and your ability to apply it. Have fun with this part of the assignment while staying close to your theory in this application. This is really where you can be creative and show us what you have to offer and your creativity in terms of that. Very importantly, you have to remember two things. Firstly, remember of what we spoke about in the beginning of this video. You have to situate all this specifically within the integrated approach, signaling to its appropriateness. You essentially have to show how taking an integrated approach is making your campaign better, how you are reaching the goals of your campaign by making use of the integrated approach. Secondly, you have to always motivate your choices, and I know I stressed this a lot in the video, but I have to say it again. This is not only a good idea in this assignment, but in all academic work. Motivation is a rule of thumb because it speaks to the validity and reliability of your discussions and or research, be it empirical or conceptual. We need to know why you made your decisions in order for us to be able to judge whether it was a good decision to make or not. If you do not provide motivations, we need to accept that you did not have any good reason to make the choice that you did and to decide as you did in the first place. Now, as you can see, there are various things that all need to work together in this assignment. A very important point that you need to heed is cohesion in your writing. Remember, you have to forward a coherent and meaningful, not to mention academic, line of reasoning in your assignment, and you cannot do that if your writing is not coherent. So, the discussions of the elements or aspects of this assignment, as we have outlined them now, really need to flow in order for the discussion to be coherent. So, the different sections should not function independently, but should be part of the same bigger discussion that answers the aspects put to you in the assignment theme. They all need to fit together in some way. You need to make sure that the different headings and sections in your assignment are linked to one another, and that it is clear how all of these headings and sections contribute to the argument line that you follow in your assignment. So the last thing that I want to draw your attention to is this. Right at the beginning of the year, I made a video that shows you how to use Google Scholar and the Unisa library to locate academic sources. If you've not yet done so, have a look at that video. The link for the video can be found on the COM4808 site on my Unisa. Now, the reason why I mention this now is because before you start writing anything in this assignment, you really have to do your due diligence and you really have to read and read and read. You won't be able to tell us why one PR campaign model is appropriate where another one is less appropriate if you did not actually read up on all the different ones that are out there. They don't differ that much from one another. The one might add one more thing, the other might leave one more thing out. But the fact of the matter is, you will only be able to judge appropriateness and motivate all of your answers and decisions in terms of this assignment if you really have done the reading. One last thing that I might mention is there are various scenarios that real-life scenarios and real-life case studies that deal with similar aspects. I can think, for example, of one in America, just off the top of my head now, where Shell Corporation tried to establish a chapter in the eastern or northern parts of Ohio, and there was a very unfavorable corporate image in that organization, and the PR firm that they hired actually had to sort of reverse the corporate image before they were able to establish branches in that part of that state. So there's various different case studies that you can go and have a look at and see what other PR firms in actuality did in order to formulate a more positive corporate image for their organization. But the literature that you have to consult will be more academic in nature. The different case studies that you read could give you a good background of how to apply the theory that you found, but essentially you will still make use of academic sources. Okay, so all that's left for me to do is to wish you all the best with this assignment and invite you once again to contact us if you have any specific question. Happy reading and happy writing.